Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming into another video. I get a chance to decompress. I've had a nice day with everything I got going on, trying to move out real fast and all this. I just haven't had a chance to talk about basketball. And to be honest with you, it ain't really a whole lot for me to talk about. Even though I told y'all in one of them videos that I was looking forward to the Miami Denver game. As soon as I got a glance at the box score, I didn't even turn it on. I was cool, man. Like, nah, I'm not going to watch that. I can do something else with my time. But, I think right now, it's nothing really to say about the Lakers, which is why I had one of the reasons why I didn't make any Laker talk videos or Laker chat videos, rather, is because I just don't have anything. I really don't have anything. And I could make up content, but that's not my flavor, man. I'm not the type of dude to say, yo, what if we went and got James Harden? I'm not like that, man. If I hear something, if I think of something that makes sense, I'll do it. But I'm not going to just throw some names on there, put Lakers on there just to clickbait. That's just not my style. Not to say that anybody else is doing that, because I literally haven't watched any of our Laker talk people today. I haven't even glanced at any Laker stuff at all. So I don't know what other content people are doing during these times. But in the summertime, when it right before the finals ends, right before the draft, this is really like the deadest time in the NBA. It's the most dead time there is, which is why the finals are supposed to be so exciting, because there ain't gonna be no trades, because nobody's quite ready to make any moves, because it's not quite the offseason. It ain't quite the draft. It ain't quite any of that. It's no summer league. It's just, if you're not into the finals, everybody's gone. And so it's kind of just where we're at. Hopefully our guys are on vacation, enjoying their off season. It ain't really nothing to say about nothing else. It's time to get your money if you want to get, obviously endorsement opportunities that maybe you couldn't do during the regular season. Guys could go fly all over the country and be seen. So that's the beauty of being a Laker. You can get those opportunities. We're hearing about Taylor Swift and Austin Reeves. I don't know if that's true. I heard that wasn't true. But it does speak to Austin Reeves' star power just overwhelmingly ascending. And you could tell that even if he isn't necessarily doing that, the rumors are out, and that's enough in and of itself. So I like it. I like the fact that Austin's getting that kind of shine. Y'all know I'm a big fan of Austin Reeves. Been a big fan of him since draft night. Even though he wasn't drafted, I did my homework on the kid, and that was it for me. I already knew what it was. He's my kind of player. He looks to pass. He got the length. He plays defense. He knows how to draw fouls with ease on both sides of the floor. His mid-range game is good. His three-point game has been great ever since he was drafted. Even though it was said that he wasn't a great shooter, that's not true. He is a great shooter. And on top of that, the kid's length, if I didn't already say that, his size is really helpful, and he works hard. He has a great attitude. So he checks all the boxes for your boy. I'm a huge fan of what he brings to the table, and he just so happens to be on my squad. So needless to say, if they want to pay him 80, I'm with it. If they want to give him a little more than that, I'm with that too, because I just know he's going to play that up. One of the smartest players from his draft class. I don't want to say in the whole league, but I do believe that. But it's just, he's got a long way to go to develop as well, to become the star that I think he's ultimately going to be. And that's saying a lot, given the fact that he's already good enough to do damage. So I just think his upside is crazy. And I don't think that you can ever look at him and say he can't fit in, because he can fit any position. He could play the 1, play the 2, play the 3. And if you're going to do small ball 4, he could probably play that too, depending on who you're going up against. So, yeah, the Austin Reeves is the man. And I hope that regardless if he's dating Taylor Swift or not, that he's having a great offseason, for real. And that I feel for the rest of our guys as well. Think about D'Angelo Russell. Curious to see what's going to happen with him now that Phoenix has opened up their roster spot with Chris Paul. One has to think that the Lakers may be giving him that spot, and D'Lo may actually go up there and get Phoenix's bag or something if there's an opportunity. Or maybe there's another bit of shuffling. I look at the Toronto situation. It's pretty interesting for a point guard, given the fact that Fred's going to be out soon. So that is in theory. We don't know that, but very easily you can see them drafting a point guard as well. A lot of people have them getting either Cason Wallace, of whom I don't actually think is going to fall to them, or Kobe Buffkin, of whom I think is a good chance that might fall to them. So I think that's a good opportunity for them to kind of go that route. Some think they may end up trading up for 2 or 3. I think that's also a good route for the Toronto Raptors. But if they don't decide to do anything like that, Chris Paul's floating out there, and D'Angelo Russell could be floating out there, depending on what the Lakers want to do. Now, I don't know if he's an upgrade from Fred VanVleet. Any other of those guys are really an upgrade at this point. But, hey, what are you going to do? Point guards float around, and those are 2 of the more solid, talented names out there at those positions. So, yeah, that's where my head goes as far as D'Lo's concerned. Just curious to see where he lands. If the Lakers are going to offer him something, will we be happy with what they offer him? Chances are we're probably lowballing D'Lo based on what we saw from him. But throughout the course of an 82-game season, there's no guarantee he's not going to have another All-Star season. It's not, especially if he can find ways of overcoming what he's been dealing with his feet. So hopefully this off-season could be a breakthrough in regards to him. And if so, I think there's still a lot of confidence to be had in his ability to shoot the ball, in his ability to pass. And his overall methodical type of play style can really fit a lot of teams. So maybe I don't love him next to AD and Bron, but there are other situations that I think he would fit pretty well in. And I would like, and this is going to sound kind of weird, but I would like to believe in D'Lo again. When he first got here the second time, I was super excited about bringing him in. Like, I remember what he did, ice in his veins and all that, but I just felt like he took almost a whole 180 in regards to what I could expect from him in big moments. He went from somebody I couldn't wait to see in big moments to a guy I said, you know what, I don't want to even see him out there in the Western Conference Finals. And so one of the biggest things about wanting D'Lo on the team was the fact that I thought he was so clutch. So it's like, if I can't have that from you, then it's not really what I thought I was getting, man. It's not what I'm signing up for. So as a fan, I want the Lakers to just make a good decision on D'Lo Russell. At this point, if he's being lowballed too much, I've come on board with the idea of re-signing him and then seeing what happens with that contract. Because if he is at rock bottom and you can sign him for a nice, long, short money deal, they could be one of the most tradable contracts or one of the most flexible contracts to have. So that's really what it is. I have come around to understanding what everybody's saying about that. And I think that is actually something that we should very much consider, depending on what that price tag looks like. If we can get him like at 15 a year, that's probably a real deal, given the fact that he was off of 31 on something like that on his last contract, 28, something like that. So if we can get him for half of that and then just temper our expectations as it pertains to what it is we expect him to do, we could play up his value from that point and probably trade him at the deadline or even be happy with what we have there. So yeah, I'm coming around. I'm coming around because I've been telling myself that I've fallen too down on D'Lo. There's a level to where you're supposed to go as it pertains to how far down you are on a guy. And I think I've passed that level prematurely as it pertains to what it is I was seeing. There is a lot of good he can do throughout the course of a regular season that can really help your team. But whenever playoffs come around, we just have to understand that he may show up, he may just shrivel up and go away. And so that is what we're worried about with D'Lo. And if we're the Lakers trying to win a championship, that's just a thing that I don't think we can really do much with. So that hopefully he can regain my not respect, but I guess my trust in late game situations, and show that he does have the natural gift and ability that he has always had. He just doesn't necessarily tap into his greatest confidence in playoffs. And so that's unfortunate, man. A guy as talented as he is should be able to do what he does on most nights. So that's what I hope to see from him going forward. Who else I want to talk about here? Anthony Davis. We didn't talk about Anthony Davis possibly asking for an extension. Now, granted, that extension is not clear to me in terms of the numbers that he may be looking for. I think they said like a 3-year, 50-something plus million contract that could probably inflate to something more than that in the last year. My thing is this when it comes to AD. I'm all on board with keeping him. And I made that decision with a lot of balance in head in mind about his injuries and also him playing, not playing back-to-backs and all of it. And I don't know that there's any way to expect him to play more than 50 games. So that's the problem. If I can't pencil you in for a good portion of the season, then I have to look at that year that's going to be $64 million or 50. I have to look at that as something that might not be the best thing for me if I'm a Laker. If I'm the owner, I'm just not certain if him at that price is worth it when you consider how much time he's going to miss. Now, I'm not going to disrespect him and say, well, not only that, but he don't be scoring sometimes and he don't always show up. Because really, the reality is, if he's out there healthy, he's going to give us what he got. And that's what you're paying for. Not for him to show up and play well in the one night, but you want the 82 game plus playoffs, defensive, rebounding, possibility, scoring, the whole nine. That's what you're paying for. So With him, it's like he's such an amazing defender, the best defender in the game. He can be an amazing scoring player once in a while. It doesn't happen as much as it should. But ultimately, it's hard to be confident that I'm going to be happy with him every year at that price. It's hard because I don't think he's going to play enough games to make it make sense. And that is where I'll end that part of that conversation. So, yeah, Bron James. Of course, everybody's wondering what he's going to do. You know, I guess he tweeted out that he'll think about it in regards to going to the Mavericks. I ain't taking that seriously, and I hope the Mavericks aren't either. I don't think he's going there, you guys. For those who are hoping that actually happens, I am pretty damn certain that doesn't look very good for their cap situation at all. So a lot of this stuff is just contingent on, I'm going to tell you the truth, it's contingent on how much of a pay cut Kyrie Irving is willing to take. All of this stuff that is looking like it's possible is very possible if he wants to take $20 million a year. And so that's what it really comes down to. If he wants to take a reasonable contract, then he can build a super team in Dallas, he can build a super team, come to LA, get it. You know, there's a lot of different things he can do if he's willing to take a massive pay cut. But if he's not willing to take a massive pay cut, he could probably end up in Toronto or something like that. Clippers, maybe. If they gut everything, they might have an opportunity to bring him in as a star. Like, these are the type of opportunities that I think will be available to him, because a team like Phoenix ain't going to be able to pay him. Not unless they get rid of Ayton, and I don't know if that makes you better. And because you're going to have a horrible bench again. You just got Kyrie Irving, KD, and now Booker. I don't know if that's going to be enough for you. You tried it with Harden over in Brooklyn. I don't think so. I wouldn't do that. So I think Kyrie's best path to a championship really is in his pocketbooks. It's going to be about how much of his real money is he willing to invest in the team that he's going to be playing for. And if he gives up enough of it, he can be on the NBA champion. But if he takes up $50 million like AD, then it's not happening. And so guys got to see it that way. I don't care how much you can do or what you expect to be able to do on the floor. Once you don't have enough of your teammates with you, you roll an ankle, your team's losing. Like, you can't afford that if you're that guy. You know what I mean? And with Kyrie's injury history coupled with all the other stuff that we are understanding of in regards to his availability, it just don't make a whole lot of sense for him to assume he's going to win if he cashes all the way out. And that ain't just with Kyrie Irving. That's anybody at that level. It's going to be hard to build a team around a guy like Dame Lillard. Dame Lillard's like, all right, I want to go to Celtics. No, I don't want to go to Celtics. Like, yo, bro, any team that's willing to take that contract is doing the Blazers a favor, fam. I hate to do that to Dame because I really believe in Dame as a scorer and a clutch player, a Hall of Famer. But for me, ain't nobody in the league I want with that contract, man. Nobody. Not a soul. That's just too much of the cap to be given to one human, bro. So that's really what it comes down to. I don't think that he was thinking about that necessarily when he was cashing out. But it's going to be tough trying to build a team around him. And so for him, if I were Dame Lillard, honestly, the very key to what it is that he and Kyrie and Harden and all these people need is rookie contract teammates that can make it so that they can give you high production on $3 million contracts, bro. That way, your second best guy is only making $3 million and your first best guy can make $50 million because the next guy ain't really, you know what I mean? It's not gonna cost much to keep him. So it's like, that's what I think these guys who make $60 and $70 million a year need. Dame Lillard is talking about going somewhere else. Hell no, you need to be in Portland. Why? Because your next best players, assuming they trade Simons and Grant isn't retiring, your next best players are going to be on rookie contracts. It's going to be Shaedon Sharpe and whoever you drafted 3. So it's like, I think that's probably the best way forward for a lot of these older guys on these massive contracts and stuff. Because at the end of the day, the only way you're really going to be as good as you want to be is if your teammates are on the team. And if you don't have a good enough team, a deep enough team, you're going to be out of here, man. And it ain't going to matter that you made all that money. That money's just going to be sitting in your bank account while you a loser in it. So everybody's rich at that level. I don't know if there's a much of a difference between $60 million and $50 million, $40 million. I don't know. At that level, I'm small potatoes, baby. But what I'm telling you is once my life is set, I'm a millionaire, everybody's straight, all my family straight, everybody's good. Everybody's paid for, everybody's good. I got my investments making money, businesses on the side making money, everything's profitable. What the hell am I taking another $10 million for? Like, nah, man, let me get my life the way I want it to. My kids are straight. They ain't never gonna want for nothing. You know what I mean? So it's like, at that point, you gotta ask yourself, am I really doing this for any other reason than just want to take all the money that the cap can provide me? Because because I'm good enough to do it? And if so, will I not regret that when I have another hamstring injury, another knee injury or whatever, and my team ain't no good? And then everybody talking about blaming me for why I just don't think that I'm in a position to really tell people what's enough money at all. But at the same time, I can tell you that once you get into the cosmos at a certain point, you are comfortable. And being comfortable should stand for something. It's at some point when you consider you only got one life, you only got one career, and there ain't a lot of time to play in that career. It's like, damn, you gonna really be on a bad Blazer team for extra $10 million when you already got $500 million in the bank? I don't understand it. I understand money, but I get to a point where I understand comfort as well as it pertains to what it is I'm doing every day. And I ain't gonna want to play with a bunch of scrubs. I ain't in some little situation that ain't necessarily as good as it should be, while everybody else looking at me like, when am I gonna get a ring? When are you gonna get a ring? He's not. And that's the problem. So that's just really what it come down to, man. I wish everybody well. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm in no position from where I'm at tell nobody what's too much money. But what I can say is, at some point in time, you just got to look around and say, man, ain't nobody want nothing. Nobody needs anything. We got everything. You know? And so it's like, can I enjoy myself? Money gonna still be made. Can I enjoy myself? Can I get to a point where I'm credited with the championship ring for all of my efforts all these years? It's just like, I just think Dame is choosing the money, and it's been a lot of guys that chose the money, and I guess that's okay. It's okay. It's just from a fan perspective, you want your team to be good. So it's like, I guess it ain't okay from our perspective. But that's all I got to say about that particular thing, man. I just don't want anybody on that type of contract. Now, granted, to zero back into AD's situation, the thing about AD and why his contract is a bit more reasonable to me based on it's going to be based on his ability to be bigger. And with that size should come ability to control more aspects of the game. Dame is going to be able to do some really, really impossible things down there and make himself worthy of that $60 million. But at the end of the day, the defense is going to falter without a player like AD. The rebound is going to falter without a player like AD. Some of the scoring, depending on how he's doing, it's definitely going to increase if he's going up to his level, et cetera, et cetera. It's just so many different things that a guy like AD can do for the team to where he don't need as much next to him at a high price to get him over the hump. In theory. That's absolutely in theory, depending on how well he's playing, whatever. But you're talking about the prototype and the body type. You can replace AD and put Evan Mobley there at a more advanced rate. You know what I mean? In terms of like 3 years from now, he's going to be worth what? $150, $200 million himself. Same thing. It's basically what I'm saying to you. They can do more, so they'll be able to be able to have less next to him. Wembanyama, you know what I mean? Those guys, they're going to need some good teammates, but it ain't like they need a super team to get a championship. They probably shouldn't. They should be able to get one without a super team. So that's my little take on it. I just think that it's easier to justify paying guys who can do more for you. More length, more coverage of space. You know, efficient shooting is amazing, and the various different things that I don't know nothing about definitely need to be taken into account. But at the end of the day, I always tell you, the ball goes up, man. The tallest person gets to the highest point, they're gonna get the ball. So that's what I always say, man. Give me AD, give me Evan, give me Wembanyama, all those big guys. Give me Jokic. I'll take the big guys and give them the $50, $60 million. And I'll let the little guys, I'm sorry, you got to be Steph damn Curry for me to raise you up that high, man. Or you got to be rebounding the ball like a big guy and then blocking shots like a big guy. You know what I mean? If you could do all that, then you're worth the money. So that's just how it equates on the floor when you're trying to win, in my opinion. And that's what I see there. So I hear Jaylen Brown is up for like $60-something million. Ain't no way in hell I'm giving Jaylen Brown that type of money, bro. Ain't no way in hell. Even in respecting him as a star. Even in respecting him as a guy who's been to the finals and been in a lot of successful situations in the Eastern Conference. He ain't worth no $60 million. Why? Because his teammates are not going to be able to be good enough for him to win a championship with him at that rate. That ain't happening. And so that's why I say if I'm Jaylen Brown, and you sign a contract like that, you can best believe that thing going to end up in some other way. Either you're going to end up stretching it in the end, or your team ain't going to be as good as it should be because you ain't going to have nothing but you on the team, or eventually somebody's going to trade it to a team where that will be the dynamic. Straight up. So I think it's almost like you're giving up any iota, I guess is the word, that the championship is possible once you trap yourself in a contract like that. I mean, happy money for you, but it ain't going to be no winning. So that's kind of what I see there, man. Jaylen Brown's going to cash out big, but I don't know if he will have a happy career after he does that. So it depends on how the overall market inflates, though. You may mess around and find out that contract ain't that big because they're giving out $60 million contracts to everybody 3-4 years from now. So if that's the case and they're projecting that, then obviously what I'm seeing is not real, because the numbers that are coming will be unprecedented. And that's just part of the progress of the league. You do expect that 10 years from now, guys will be getting $500 million, $1 billion contracts. Like, you could totally see that, because the revenue is going to continue to flow in. So they're going to have more money to split up in theory. So if you're thinking that way, and say AD signs a $64 million contract that ends him with a $64 million hike at the end of the contract. Well, if the highest contract in the league is going to be 90 million in that way, 90 million a year, 3 years from now, then suddenly you got a discount on AD. So it's a lot of things that need to be projected, and a lot of things are unprecedented. You just don't know how it's going to go. So that's something the Lakers and all teams need to take into account as they assess these things. It may be a bad contract today. It might not be when it ends, so to speak. But a guy like Wembanyama got to look up and say, man, my final contract, if things keep going the way they're going, I might end up with $1 billion contract at the end of my career. Like, for real, for real. A guy has to wonder if something like that is possible, man. Because where we're headed, I mean, the numbers are getting higher and higher, not just in the NBA, but if you look around at what's going on in soccer, around the globe, people are giving away $500 million to kick a ball around, man. And so I know the NBA, with the expansion of international game, and all of the influx of international players, it's just going to continue to garner more attention. It's going to continue to garner more revenue, and that's going to be more for the players and coaches and everybody split. So happy riches to everybody in the league. I see that coming for sure. So, yeah, man, those are the thoughts on my head. Who else are we talking about? We got through Austin, LeBron. We talked about some people on some other teams, but this is supposed to be a Laker talk video. At the end of the day, we're just waiting on the draft. At the end of the day, we want to draft our player. Hopefully we land somebody we like a lot. We've already said the names. I encourage everybody to go check out my mock draft that I did, 5 days ago, something like that. Some things have changed since a little bit. My understanding of certain players has grown. Some of the guys that I had higher or lower, some of the guys I had in certain positions, I don't think of them like that right now. Specifically Cam Whitmore. Cam Whitmore can play a little more three than I thought. And I would say that Hendricks is not as much of a three as I thought, even though I think he could play it. So those are things that affected my mock draft that if I drafted today, I probably would have did a little different. But nevertheless, I do think that if you are like me and you see Whitmore as an interior player, then I don't know that him playing with a bunch of guys that want to be on the inside is really the best move. But they're going to try to put him on the wing at the small forward regardless if he goes to Detroit. My favorite place for him to go is probably Utah or any of these other places, Orlando. They're probably going to ask him to play the three. So if that's what it is, then he probably does slip in early in one of them first 7 picks. As opposed to slipping to 9 with Utah. But I do want Utah low-key to trade for him. I do. I just think that that's a match made in heaven. I think he's a perfect piece for something they never had, they don't have, ain't going to get if they don't draft him. So with their pick, they got 2 picks. I don't know if I give away both of those picks for 1 pick, but I would do something to try to put myself in a position to draft Cam Whitmore if I'm the Utah Jazz. I don't think there's a better fit for their team than that player in this first round. So maybe I'm wrong about that. I think some people would love to see Anthony Black there. I also think that they would really benefit from having a guy like Jalen Hood-Schifino at 16, their 16th pick. So they got their options. They really do. But for me, my favorite pairing for them is Cam Whitmore. So these are just things I've been thinking about. You guys know that already. But yeah, man, salute the Kobe Minute. We're about to approach that now. And, this offseason is going to be a fun one. With the changes in the collective bargaining agreement, you're seeing teams not take chances with players with too much salary. Chris Paul being waived was not something that you would have saw if these changes didn't happen. I'll tell you right now, that would not have happened. And you may see more waivings like that going forward just because of how difficult it is to keep teams, under that cap apron, the second cap apron. So if it's going to have them over the cap apron and it doesn't make them feel like they're even close to winning the championship, you're going to see some unprecedented movement this year. You're going to see some guys that you thought never would move out of here because they just can't afford to keep them. So that's something I think we should anticipate as the season progresses. Names that are just simply not on the trade block will begin to be on that trade block. So I am seeing that coming. I think everybody should keep some fresh powder, so to speak, ready for that. So yeah, that's really where my head is in regards to the chats on the NBA. I know this game 4 is coming up. I haven't been on record telling y'all what I think, but I don't think the Heat get another game. I really don't. Denver in 5, as far as I can tell, man. It's just Denver is entirely too good in terms of how they're built to defeat the rest of the Western Conference. So long as they're not having any issues with their injuries whatsoever, which have been flawless off playoffs long, and you can credit how they, shut it down earlier at the end of the season, not allowing them to play their stars at the end of the year. That gave them just enough juice to make it all the way through these finals. And right now, they're 2 games away from the chip. So I'm a firm believer that Jokic is that dude. Jamal Murray is also that dude. And I don't know that they don't come back just as good next year, ready to do it again, because there's no reason not to think they will be. With the age of these guys and how well they match up, and the age of everybody else on the team, which seems to be on par with what they're doing, I'm a firm believer that the Denver Nuggets are not done controlling things for a little bit. I think we could potentially see a double dip there, or how do you call that, back to back. I think it's possible. Especially if they strengthen their bench. I just don't know if anybody's going to build properly enough to ultimately defeat what it is that we saw here. It's going to take a lot. So that's just what I think, man. That's what I think. You got to get yourself some bigs. You got to be able to defend, and you got to be able to hit shots better than them. And that, my friends, is where they are really, really special. They hit all the big shots. They don't really miss too much. And when they are locked in, you're just not going to have any room for error against the Denver Nuggets. I've learned to respect that aspect of their game after watching enough of them after they beat us in these finals. They're just not going to miss enough most nights. If you're not absolutely gifted at hitting shots, they're going to get you. So, yeah, that's why I think Denver could very easily come back and be a problem, just as much of a problem next year. I was listening to Michael Porter talk about himself, and he was telling everybody that he's wearing a back brace that nobody else in the league is wearing all the time because of his multiple back surgeries at the start of his career. I think that affects his mobility in some ways that make it so that what he's doing is extremely impressive. And if he's able to remove that back brace next season, I think we're going to see a much more mobile Porter. So him playing this well with his back in a brace, man, we got to give that boy credit. He didn't really look like he had a brace on or nothing. He didn't look like he was restrictive, but when he expressed it to us, he said that thing is pretty damn restrictive, and it's one of the reasons why he's not as mobile and as wiggly as he ultimately knows his game is. So hopefully he can heal up 100%, and I think Michael Porter is going to show people that he has some things in his arsenal that maybe he hasn't had a chance to show because of that back. So pretty impressed with that young fella. And that's where my head went, man. I'll make this an NBA chat video since I talked about all these teams. Can't wait for Wembanyama to get drafted and see what he's going to look like in the Summer League. That's something I'm very excited about. Scoot Henderson, Amen Thompson. I saw some more footage of him just now right before I started this video, and he looked great. I mean, I have my doubts about whether or not he's going to fit in as it pertains to guys going underneath screens and his jump shot just not working out. It can really make for a very difficult situation for his entire team. But if he's going to be able to control the defensive side of the ball the way that they're saying that he's good enough to do, which I've heard he's a good defender, but they're saying he's essentially fantastic defensively. If he can be fantastic defensively, then it doesn't hurt as much that his offense doesn't work out for you. And in the event that his offense doesn't work out for you, you understand also that he can very easily make a bunch of passes, which counts for offense. He can get offensive rebounds, which counts for offense. And, of course, he can dunk the ball repeatedly with a 45-inch vertical. So it's like there are tools there for him to still get easy buckets. If he develops properly, he can basically turn into like a Giannis light. And I like Amen Thompson, especially if his jumper can start to be redone, and if he can start to get some real consistency with the jump shot. I really think this dude's going to make some all-star teams and maybe even more. So, yeah, that's what I got to say about Amen Thompson. I really liked what I saw in the footage that as of late. So it crossed my mind and listening to a description of him, and they were talking about how he's repeatedly dunking the ball, all the stuff I just said. I read the description. They were saying that they believe he's the second best prospect in the draft behind Wembanyama, not Scoot, not Miller. I wonder if Charlotte feels that way. I would tell Charlotte, if you do feel that way, you should probably trade down. Since you know 3 and 4 on the move, why reach for anything? Get you some compensation for the integrity of your draft pick. Because I think there's a pretty staunch difference in draft value between 2 and 4 this season. So if you want Amen Thompson at 4, you probably should do a deal with the Rockets. And so that's just what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's the thought. I like Scoot Henderson going somewhere other than Charlotte and Portland. So I'm hopeful that somebody trades up to get him. And I think Charlotte, Miller, I think I don't know, man. I don't know. My Miller enthusiasm needs to increase because he really is a fantastic player. And he really does fit the modern style. And the modern style is relevant as hell because you're going to get more points shooting 3 than 2. All of that is very real to me because that's the game we're playing today. You're shooting the 3 ball. And he does have some fantastic other intangibles that just make him an overall player that you see making all-star teams. Maybe turn into a real franchise guy or a number 2 guy. I just know that athleticism is not to be poo-pooed, and everybody around him is athletic. What that means around him is everybody in the draft class. All the guys in his range are athletes, and he's the only one that's not really an athlete. So it's like, as I've said already on this camera, that better be some hellacious jump shooting. You know what I mean? He better be really, really killing it on the defensive end too, to make it make sense for me to pass up on Amen and Scoot, 2 of the best, athletes this game is probably going to have this generation, for a guy that I know I could probably find in several other players if I really look around enough. Chris Middleton's there. You can find, who else? Brandon Ingram with longer arms. You can find, this is a bunch of dudes that kind of profile as a small forward that can stretch the floor at a really nice rate. So maybe he leaps amongst the stars and is able to separate himself from the rest of these dudes as like a KD-like figure or something for the future. But I personally don't know that what I've seen tells me that for me to be passing up on like ridiculous athletes. So that's my thing. I'm taking Scoot number 2. And Miller, I have to do more homework on Amen to be certain I would want to pass on him over, with Amen there. But I don't know, man. I'm uncertain. That's what I'm here to tell you. I'm uncertain, man. I don't know that I respect shot making like I should, is what I'm listening to everybody else. They put an emphasis on shot making, and I just look at that and I say maybe it's because I'm older, so I remember when people played in the paint and how easy it was to win that way. And I think that's what's missing. A lot of these guys, they grew up on Golden State. They grew up on shooting teams. They grew up watching Bron's Cleveland Cavaliers, shooting like 43s in a game. Like, the game is built for that to be what you think it is to play basketball today. If you grew up in this era, you think the 3 ball is supposed to take precedence over everything else. But the logic, the logic of that, it falters. And we've talked about this a million times, so I don't want to get into something you've heard from me a million times. But you got to understand, the jump shots are not going to be made as much if they're from the 3 ball. They're going to make them at 42% at the most, or 45%, something like that. That's what you expect a really good shooter to shoot on night-to-night basis. But the interior shots could be scored at 60%, 50%. Like, the math ain't going to add up when you consider you can get fouled shooting layups more so. Way more so. 3 is more than 2, but you ain't going to make 3 more than 2. So it's going to even out to you shooting too much a lot of the time. And I just think the game is supposed to be played inside out. Even if you want to shoot volume 3s, even if you want to average 35 threes, you should still have the point of attack be on the interior. That should be where you want to score the ball, in my opinion, in order to open up the outside for you. So it's like when you press it, when you take a guy like Miller and you start your whole thing with a guy like that, you got to go ahead and get the interior stuff now too. You got to go ahead and get the guys who can drive, the guys who can board, the guys who can do all the other stuff. And it's just, I don't know that I'm not passing up on a couple guys who can do more for me in those areas, making my situation better. Now, if I need what Miller is, then of course I'm doing great if I get him. But just in starting my franchise, like, all right, let me get somebody to get this thing started. I don't know if that's the piece I'm gonna get started with. He may be added to a situation, but not necessarily to start my franchise. And when I look at Scoot Henderson, I'm starting my franchise with that young fella. Look at Wembanyama, he saved my franchise. We ain't gonna even have to move out of town because he's gonna be on our team. He's gonna make us rich forever because he was here. And so it's like, does Miller do that? Anything like that for you? No. Are you sure Amen doesn't? No. Are you sure Cam doesn't? No. And so it starts becoming a situation where it's like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it does come down to just, he's a great jump shooter. He's going to hit all the jump shots, and that's it. But for me, there's going to be some hellacious jump shooting. It better be. It better be. So that's what I got to say about Miller, man. It ain't new content. I'm saying the same thing over again, but it's what's on my mind right now. I am uncertain about this draft coming up as it pertains to where Miller's going to fall, where Amen's going to fall, where Cam's going to go. All these guys, their value, it's not set right now at all. And what teams may do in regards to trades makes it so that you may see guys in unprecedented places. But I will say this. If I got that number 2 pick, I'm drafting Scoot Henderson. That's what I'm telling you all. And then if we want to trade it to a team that wants Scoot Henderson, that's probably what it is. But I don't see myself making that pick and letting it be anybody else than Scoot. That's not going to be what I probably do. Unless I grow to love Amen that much. But it's not going to be Miller. It's not going to be Miller. And if I like Amen that much, I'm going to try to trade down before I do something like that. So that's the thought there. I haven't really done any homework on any other prospects since I last spoke to you guys about those kids that are coming into the draft because I got so much going on. I just didn't have time. But it's still very much something I'm passionate about in regards to studying these guys. There's still more to learn. So if I have time, I'll go for it. If not, then we'll just be waiting for the draft and we'll figure it out later. But that's just kind of how life is for your boy right now. It's not going to be like it was. But nevertheless, I'm still going to be trying to give you out this content as much as I can. And I appreciate everybody for rocking with BDF44. I thank you all for watching.